Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the program. I wanted to talk on a topic today that I don't think is getting much coverage. Just checking my microphones. Looking good, looking good. Test one, two, three. Okay. All right, good. So I wanted to touch on something today. Real quick, real short video, short and sweet, like I like to keep them. Again, thank you for tuning in, liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Jumping right to it. Okay. Remember I've said in the past that there are certain events that happen and they are distractions from what's really going on. So I'm trying to find out. Let's see. The camera is here, I think. Okay. All right. So what happens is that, like right tonight, I'm out here in Tempe, Arizona. We're at a meetup, and we're gonna be watching the debate. Gonna see what's happening. Lots of focus on that. Lots of focus on what's happening. There was a lot of focus on what was going on with um, a certain ex-president and his sentencing hearing that's been delayed. It was going to be on the 18th, but now it's pushed out. But I want to bring up something that I don't think many people are even talking about or maybe even know about. But there is a particular meeting that's happening. I think it's the 21st and 22nd, give or take a day or two. It's called the Summit of the Future, and it's basically UN 2.0. It's being held in New York City. There's a website. I'll try to remember to put it in the description. If not, just search engine Summit of the Future. You'll find out the details. It's pretty boring and dry, but I'm going to tell you why this matters. Okay, so why it matters is because let's play the what if game. Okay, the what if game is always fun. I like to play that. So what if a certain ex-president wins the in November, but they don't want to allow him to come to power because the powers that be, if they lose the power, they're going to go to jail. They're going to get in all kinds of trouble. They don't want that to happen. So what can they do? They can not certify it. They can delay it. They could try and say he's a felon or convict him after what happens in November. But there's other options that I think that people need to be aware of. Now, 4 years ago, we were in a certain situation where, like, the government has basically locked us down. 2 weeks to stop the spread. Remember that nonsense? But we were shut down, and which led to when I'm trying to use the right word so I don't get flagged by YouTube. So when you turned in a ballot, you go to a box that was unguarded and not at the not the polling station. Basically, you had the mail-in stuff going on, and there's all kinds of issues that were happening with that. Well, the reason that we got to that point was because of CV19. Okay, and CV19, basically Americans, and they're not going to fall for that. They're not going to fall for like the same thing twice. But what they can fall for is something that a global agency would declare, and then we'd have foreign influence, which apparently they don't want, but a foreign influence would come in, namely the UN, and say that certain things need to be done. Now, obviously, we've got the Constitution, and that should keep that sort of thing from happening. But I believe that there's certain documentation that a certain executive has signed in the last 4 years that allows certain other global agencies like the UN or the WHO or other ones to declare overriding situations, which would preclude, basically, it would step on the authority of the U.S. We would lose our sovereignty as a country, and the UN or other forces could come in and dictate things. So I don't want to rule out any possibility. I mean, this is a big old what if, but what if this happens? It could certainly happen. And I can see a path where this could happen, where the Summit of the Future is talking about. Their main topic is global warming and the climate, but there's also about like what blockers prevent them from taking charge. And one of the blockers is the Constitution. So I just want to bring out something that people may not know about, may not be aware of. But if you're in the New York City area and you happen to see something going on September 21, 22, you don't know what they're talking about, and it's near the UN, that's probably what we're talking about. So keep that in mind. Summit of the Future, I believe, is the website. Check it out. Again, it's kind of dry, But if we're not in control of our own destiny, which is kind of like why we invest in things like Bitcoin and gold, silver, so that we have financial sovereignty and have financial autonomy. If we give up the ability to govern ourselves or watch over ourselves, if we give the power to another authority, we're giving up our own individual rights and sovereignty. It's a trade-off, and then that entity could take over, could act not in the best interest of our own selves. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of that. So while you enjoy what's going on and the conversation that happens as I record this tonight with between the two potential leaders of the U.S. that's to come, keep that in mind that there are other things in play. The elites are global. They look all over, not just at the borders of certain countries, although the U.S. is a very important country, no question. But there are things that beyond the U.S. that could influence what's going on. Now, there's lots of things happening. We know what's happening. There's stuff happening in the U.S. There's stuff happening in Colorado, stuff happening in Ohio. I'm not going to get into those details. Plenty of videos out there on that topic. But on the global stage, there's oppression of freedom of speech in Brazil. What's going on with X and Twitter there. There's freedom of speech issues in the UK. So what happens in these other countries eventually finds itself over here, especially if it's an ally type country, or it'll migrate to us, especially if we don't trust our leadership. So keep that in mind as you look at the leadership that's bantering between each other tonight. Keep it in mind what's going on in the UN. The UN is also on the global stage, and Brandon has signed paperwork in the last couple of years that kind of defers the United States to whatever the WHO or other global agencies like the UN think. So keep that in mind. I just want to bring that story to there. Leave a comment down below. Have you heard about the Summit of the Future? Have you heard about what the UN's plans are? Have you heard about any of this before this video? I'd love to know. Please share this out, let people know, because it's important things that you need to be more aware. We hear about the same thing over and over again as we're heading to November. Clearly, that's the front of our minds. Is the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates? What are they doing? We're all leading up to November 5th, but there's other things on the global stage, and even the United States right now, that are happening that can and will affect your future, not just from an economic standpoint, but from an individual sovereignty standpoint. So keep that in mind. I'm going to stop there for now. Hopefully you got something out of this video. Leave a comment down below. I read them all. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.